Mexican drug cartels are now being accused of offering incentives for people to attack, even kill ICE and CBP officers. The Department of Homeland Security tweeting in part.
At exactly 4:30 p.m., beneath the gray and heavy sky of Chicago, a federal SUV belonging to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency was rammed by a vehicle carrying undocumented passengers. Within minutes, the quiet street erupted into chaos. Dozens of people surrounded the federal car, shouting, throwing glass bottles, forcing officers to deploy tear gas. 13 agents were exposed to chemical gas, several transported to nearby hospitals. What seemed like a random collision revealed something far more alarming. The Department of Homeland Security confirmed that Mexican drug cartels have begun offering cash rewards from 5,000 taons to $10,000 for any assault or kidnapping of ICE officers, and up to $5,000 for the assassination of senior federal officials. The situation marks a new stage of violence, not against drug suppliers, but against the defenders of law itself. When bounty hunters are paid to kill those who enforce justice, is the war on drugs still about law, or has it become a struggle for survival between human beings? Comment 1 if you believe fear can never defeat justice. Or 2 if you think every war against crime carries a bloody price. Stay with us, as the next part will reveal how federal agents disguise themselves as hired assassins to trace the empire behind it all. 18 months ago, inside a secure federal facility in Washington, D.C., a closed-door meeting was called without warning. The air was thick with tension over the past months. Too many officers had been ambushed. Too many names appeared on hit lists, and the violence was spreading beyond control. Senior officials from the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency gathered around a single table, their phones sealed in metal boxes. For the first time in years, the conversation was not about intercepting drugs or tracing money. It was about survival. Reports showed that cartels were not only targeting rival gangs anymore, they were hunting law enforcement. After a moment of silence, the room reached one conclusion. The only way to expose the network was to enter it. A decision was made to launch a covert operation, one that would take agents beyond the line of law and into the shadows of the underworld they had sworn to fight. That night marked the beginning of an 18-month investigation that would uncover a truth far darker than any of them had imagined. For the first 6 months, the task force reviewed a chain of violent attacks that at first seemed random. A shooting in El Paso left an ICE officer wounded. A car bomb outside a safe house in Phoenix destroyed 2 federal vehicles. And in Tacoma, Washington, a warehouse fire exposed traces of weapons and encrypted documents written in Spanish. Each event appeared isolated until analysts detected a common trail buried in financial data: $5,000, transferred repeatedly through the same digital payment route, disguised as life insurance claims. Following the money led investigators south, across the border, into Jalisco, Mexico. Intelligence linked these payments to a figure called Lobo, the Wolf, a man believed to control logistics and funding for one of the most violent criminal organizations in the region. He moved funds through ghost companies registered as small trucking firms operating between Sonora and Texas, under the Department of Homeland Security. A joint task force was formed to infiltrate this network. 2 agents volunteered for the most dangerous assignment, going undercover as the very killers the cartel was recruiting. One was a DEA veteran with over 2 decades in narcotics enforcement. The other, a younger ICE officer fluent in Spanish and skilled in deception analysis. They forged false criminal identities, posing as independent assassins offering services to cartel brokers operating inside the United States. For 3 months, they lived under assumed names, holding tense meetings in rundown motels near Tucson and abandoned warehouses outside Phoenix. The exchanges were short and silent. Payment was always in cash, sometimes in gold coins, never through digital channels. Surveillance drones hovered nearly a mile above every meeting. During one negotiation, a recruiter mentioned a new list. Federal officials marked for elimination. Among those names was an assistant field director of ICE in San Antonio. That was the moment when speculation turned to certainty. The bounties were not a rumor. They were commands. By the 10th month, fragments of the puzzle began to align. The money from Mexico was funding operations against federal personnel on U.S. soil. But one question remained. Who gave the orders? The answer came after a failed assassination attempt in El Paso. The attackers fled, abandoning their vehicle near the Rio Grande. Inside, agents found a satellite phone still active. The call logs traced back to an address in Guadalajara, a luxury estate registered to a shell corporation. Local authorities confirmed that the property had been visited by members of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación. The task force moved quickly, using data from the recovered phone. The undercover agents arranged a meeting with a man claiming to be Lobo's intermediary. The rendezvous took place in a smoky bar in Ciudad Juarez. Federal surveillance teams set up across the street. As one agent sat down, the man began speaking casually about money and blood, revealing that Lobo was offering $50,000 per kill and planning coordinated attacks on senior officials during transport. What he did not know was that his phone signal was being triangulated in real time. Within minutes, the FBI traced the second number to a small airstrip outside Guadalajara, used at night for cargo shipments. Satellite imaging later confirmed trucks moving under armed guard. Crates marked medical supplies being loaded onto planes bound for the U.S. border. By the 18th month, investigators had connected over 20 separate incidents, shootings, fires, money trails, bribes, and disappearances across multiple states. The evidence pointed to one conclusion. The operation was vast, systematic, and centrally controlled. At its core was the elusive figure known as Lobo. No photograph, no fingerprint, only a name repeated in encrypted code. What the agents had entered was not a random criminal ring. It was the outer shell of a structured empire, an organization run like a corporation with managers, accountants, and soldiers. Something massive was moving beneath the surface, and every sign pointed to a single command hidden deep inside Mexico's criminal hierarchy. For months, the name Lobo existed only in encrypted files and whispered conversations. Then, in early July, the FBI received intelligence from an informant in Mexico City, confirming what many had feared. Lobo was not just a middleman, he was Hector Morales, a 48-year-old former logistics officer turned cartel strategist, known among traffickers as El Lobo, the Wolf. He was a senior member of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, responsible for cross-border transport and covert financing. His network stretched across 5 states in Mexico and at least 6 in the United States. Morales operated with precision. He avoided phones, used handwritten notes, and communicated through coded radio frequencies. His system was structured like a corporation. He had regional managers who oversaw shipments, accountants who laundered money through import companies, and enforcers who protected the cargo. Every week, over 1 ton of synthetic drugs crossed the border, hidden in commercial trucks and containers labeled as agricultural goods. From distribution centers in Phoenix and Dallas, the narcotics were moved east through smaller couriers, disguised inside prescription medication bottles and medical supply boxes. By the time the drugs reached Chicago and New York, the street value exceeded $100 million per shipment. To secure his empire, Morales built layers of loyalty and fear. Local officials along the border were bribed or threatened. Some were offered monthly payments, others disappeared. He recruited American citizens, mostly truckers and warehouse workers, by offering $10,000 for each successful delivery. Several DEA field reports described Morales as meticulous, paranoid, and unpredictable. He rarely appeared in the same city twice and frequently changed vehicles. plates, and even bodyguards. By late July, the task force had everything it needed. The small airstrip near Guadalajara, the one first discovered through the satellite phone, became the focal point. It was more than a landing site. It was the operational heart of Morales' empire. Surveillance drones recorded night convoys carrying crates labeled surgical equipment. Through infrared imaging, agents confirmed the boxes contained compressed fentanyl packages and automatic rifles. A decision was made. It was time to move. The operation was codenamed Iron Border, coordinated by the DEA, ICE, and the FBI. The strike involved over 200 agents from both countries. The timing had to be perfect. The raid would begin at 2:00 a.m. when the next cargo flight was scheduled to depart for the U.S. The night before the raid, agents gathered at a forward base near Zapopan. Maps covered the walls. Radio codes were memorized. No one spoke much. Each man and woman in the room understood that they might not return. Helicopters waited in the dark, their blades silent. When the order came, the sound of engines tore through the night sky. The first team landed near the runway. Gunfire erupted immediately. Cartel guards opened fire from pickup trucks fortified with steel plates. Agents returned fire, advancing under the cover of smoke grenades. Within minutes, the firefight turned into chaos. Bursts of automatic fire echoing across the valley. Morales' men fought with precision, buying time for a plane to start its engines. Inside the control tower, one of the undercover agents, who had infiltrated weeks earlier, was waiting. He disabled the communications panel and signaled the strike team. Federal helicopters descended. The plane on the runway attempted to accelerate, but was hit by gunfire and burst into flames. The explosion lit up the night, scattering debris across the tarmac. When the smoke cleared, 27 cartel members were in custody. Among them were 2 regional lieutenants and a woman identified as Maria Soto, Morales' financial operator in the United States. More than 550 pounds of synthetic drugs were seized, along with $4 million in cash and 18 automatic rifles. But Morales was gone. He had escaped minutes before the assault through an underground passage connected to a drainage system. The next 48 hours became a manhunt. Units across Jalisco, Sinaloa, and Sonora joined the search. On August 12th, just before dawn, Morales' black SUV was spotted on a rural highway outside Tepatitlan. A brief chase followed. The vehicle flipped after colliding with a barricade. When agents approached, they found Morales unconscious, his weapon on the passenger seat. He was taken into custody without further resistance. By sunrise, the raid was over. The empire that had once controlled a major narcotics corridor collapsed in a single night. Local media captured images of burning vehicles, confiscated cash, and boxes of fentanyl stacked higher than a man's shoulder. The numbers spoke for themselves. 27 arrests, 550 pounds of synthetic drugs, and an estimated street value of more than $100 million disrupted. But for many agents, victory came with silence. Dozens of officers had been wounded, and 2 remained hospitalized in critical condition. In neighborhoods where the drugs once flowed, families gathered outside their homes, watching the news unfold. Some cheered, others stayed quiet, knowing that cartels, like wolves, never truly die. They vanish, wait, and return. In the aftermath of Operation Iron Border, the numbers spoke loudly. More than 70 federal charges filed, 30 suspects indicted, 14 search warrants executed, and over $8 million seized. Yet statistics alone could never describe what truly changed that night. Across 2 nations, from Guadalajara to Chicago, there was one silent realization. Justice had not fallen. It had endured. The agents who walked through gunfire carried no banners, no triumphal speeches. What they carried instead was proof proof that the law still stands when fear tries to break it. Each arrest, each document signed under the dawn sky, was a statement that order could still outlast chaos. As dawn spread over the burned airstrip, the smoke began to lift. The same sky that had witnessed violence now reflected light. For a brief moment, the borderlands felt still, not because crime had ended, but because courage had spoken louder. One agent wrote in his report, "Justice does not shine because it is perfect. It shines because it survives the darkness." That morning, beneath the first light of Guadalajara, the war was not over, but justice had risen, steady, scarred, and shining.